so, Mr. Tucker?
I guess I'm calling myself to the stand.
All right, so Mr. Tucker is going to be a witness in the case. So if you'd approach the deputy, turn, face the clerk, just raise your right hand, face the clerk.
I'm sorry. Uniforms do that.
You've already cleared security like everybody else here, so you're good. We want to put you under oath like every other witness.
Do you solemnly swear or affirm that the testimony you will give in the cause now in hearing shall be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth, so help you God?
All right, please have a seat on the witness stand.
Actually, if you would, thank you. I'm probably going to need somewhere in here.
All right, so first of all, would you state your name?
Franklin Tyrone Tucker.
All right, so as you all know, Mr. Tucker's acting as his own attorney. So in this particular direct examination, he is being allowed to testify in narrative form. Rather than asking himself questions and then giving an answer, he's just going to testify as a narrative. So you can proceed.
Okay. Yeah, it's a little weird. Not exactly expected, guys. I'm sorry about that. But I guess we're going to start. I think the best place probably to start is probably around Hurricane Irma. That would probably be the best way to go. I had been in Key West for, I don't know, a while. Been probably a couple of years. Been working on boats. Originally, before this storm happened, I got myself a boat. Actually, I had 3 at one point. But, doing the idea was to, sail the Caribbean, eventually island hop my way down to Venezuela and then go to, South America, go up the mouth of the Amazon. Didn't happen. Obviously Irma did a lot of damage. I mean, I'm sure some of you were here and remember. But the thing is I didn't evacuate when that happened, and eventually, just prior to this incident happening, I was working doing hurricane cleanup. There wasn't very many of us here. A lot of people had evacuated, so there wasn't too many people here to do that kind of work. Not that it was my normal thing, but yeah, I mean, I was getting paid pretty good money, to be honest. It was, they had some of the more wealthy neighborhoods that were up in the Big Pine area. They had people who wanted their roofs blue tarped. I don't know if you guys know what that is, but they wanted their roofs blue tarped, and they were paying me $300 an hour to get up there. And at the time, I mean, I was like $300 an hour. I'm up there, no problem, So, I did some of that, and I also did hurricane, debris, getting rid of debris and chopping up, cutting up logs or whatever, trees that had fallen. I do remember finding an airplane cockpit in somebody's backyard in Big Pine, and there's no airport near there, So, anyway, but that's what I was doing for money at the time. And I was getting paid cash, so like I said, $300 an hour, and sometimes I'd do, I don't know, 4 or 5 roofs in a day sometimes. So that's pretty good money for that time, right? And yes, I did stay at cots at certain points, just because, like many people at that time, didn't have it. A lot of us. If you want to say homeless, I guess that is the word. But the thing is a lot of people were homeless at that point. A lot of people lost their boats. A lot of people lost their houses, lost their homes. I wasn't exactly special that way. But I was working the whole time, and I was making good money. And my whole plan was to buy another boat, and again resume my plan to sail off into the Caribbean. And this, this is a personal note, I guess, because of the time. Most people don't know I have a 14-year-old. I had a 14-year-old son at the time that I raised myself. I was a single dad, and I raised him up till he was.
Judge to the relevance.
Okay,
well, because he was supposed to come live with me. That's the only.
I'm sorry, Mr.
Story.
You wanted to complete your thought there? If it's connected, go ahead.
No, it's just part of the story because he was actually supposed to. He was supposed to be coming to live with me in about 2 months. Before, when this happened.
Okay.
Right after this happened, I had about 2 months, and he was supposed to come live with me. So, it is kind of part of the story. You can see my mentality at the time. But the thing is okay. So, anyway, that didn't happen, obviously. So, as far as the warehouse, right? The warehouse, I remember it from the storm because, yes, I did stay there during the storm. And, it was a big steel building. It was on cinder blocks. So, I mean, okay. It seemed like a good place to ride out the storm. And the only thing I was worried about was the roof getting blown off, So, I stayed there for, I don't know, maybe a week. I don't know, something like that. I can't remember exactly. But, and I know it's come out before that April Walker, Rory Wilson's girlfriend, did not like me. And I didn't stay there because of that. It's like, and not only that, they were having, between Rory and April, they had domestics that, I remember the cops coming out 3 times in one night when I was there. And I'm like, okay, this is not someplace I want to be, right? So I didn't stay there. I went, I was staying at Cots again, right? And when I was staying at Cots, it was okay. I don't necessarily like staying there, but I was saving up money. That's basically it, saving up money, getting a new boat. Anyway, so, somewheres along the lines, and I don't remember exactly when this was, but, I know Mr. Johnson testified that, we met after he got out of jail. No, I was actually at work when he went to jail, and I remember very well when he went to jail because we knew each other prior to that. How, he actually knows how I ended up at the warehouse. The way I ended up there is I had a friend, CJ and Michelle, who lived, they were living in the same, I guess they, you guys know conch houses, I guess, is what they call them down here. But it wasn't really a conch house because it's a warehouse, and they had built apartments in there that I guess weren't really legal, but they were renting out rooms but sharing a bathroom and a kitchen and a dining room, right? And there's multiple roommates that are up there. So I don't even remember how many people live there. There's a bunch of people who live there. But anyway, Roy Wilson and his girlfriend had the apartment downstairs. They actually had an apartment to themselves. And then there were people upstairs who lived in the apartments upstairs, or the rooms upstairs, I should say. One of them was brought up before a guy named David Gross, right? They like to call him the White Detroit in this whole story. But yes, he lived upstairs, and my friends CJ and Michelle had one of these rooms up there. And Michelle, she was the manager at Burger King. She was actually a manager at Burger King. I forget what CJ did, but the thing is okay, CJ somewhere along the lines gets into an altercation with David Gross and punches him in the nose, right? And David goes ahead and gets a restraining order against CJ. Now, I just happened to show up the day that, the police are escorting CJ and Michelle out of there because of this restraining order, right? And, as they're going out, they're going to a hotel, that's where they're going to go, and they can't take all their belongings with them, right? Can't take everything with them. So they asked me, they were like, okay, well, would you stay here and watch our stuff, make sure nobody messes with it, make sure nobody steals it, that kind of stuff. Stay here, while until we can come back and get our stuff, right? And I was like, at first I was like, okay, well, I've got to be at work in a few days, but yeah, I can watch it for you, and so I do, and I go and I stay in CJ and Michelle's room, and I did come into contact with a few of these people, it's like, again, Travis was one of them. I didn't know him very well. As far as I knew, he came down from Michigan with a guy named Scott Gideon. That's the one I asked about. Or no, sorry, Matthew Gideon is his name. They called him Matty. But anyway, he had come down from Michigan with this guy. And, they were okay. I didn't really think anything of them. But they were okay. And, I don't remember exactly how long I was there before this incident happened. But this is how I end up, in this thing. Because, okay, like I said, I don't remember exactly the time frame here, but I do remember some of the people that were around at the time. I do remember Travis was there. I know Matthew had already left, and I think Matthew went to the beach, if I'm correct. But again, Mr. Johnson ended up with his medications. So, that's a whole different story. But the thing is I'm trying to remember now. It's like, you got to remember, this is around Fantasy Fest time, when this happens, right? Because, okay, it happens on November 17th, right? And Fantasy Fest, that year was on Halloween, the 31st, right? Now I know just my own phone records that I looked at recently when I was looking at it for this case, right? I had 2 phone calls with John Travis Johnson, right? And they're from the 28th of October, right? So I must have met him somewhere in that time period, right? And I know that year for Fantasy Fest, I don't remember what the theme was. I don't remember what the theme was, but I know that the parade was on Halloween night, and I know it was at the Green Parrot that night, right? And I hung out there quite a bit. My friend, longtime friend, runs the place. I don't know if any of you know Jim Fossum, but yeah, he runs the place. And so I still have quite a few friends. I've been coming here since I was 13, and been, I guess they call it a Key West rubber band is what they call me. It's like I'll move away, I come back, I move away, I come back. My daughter was even born here, right? So anyway, to keep on going here, Fantasy Fest happens, and I'm hanging out with a friend of mine named Ben, and we're hanging out on what we call the party bench. It's right outside the little deli that's right there down on the corner. And he has a dog, can't take him in the bar, so we're hanging out on the bench. And some girls come by, and they wanted to paint up our faces, and of course we let them, right? I mean, it's like, okay, why not, right? So they go ahead and paint up our faces and all that. And, then they're like, okay, well, can you pose for us, look scary, that kind of thing. Okay, so we do, both of us, right? So there's a picture of both of us like this. But anyway, so fast forward. We go down to the point where all this has happened. And again, Fantasy Fest, I mean, look, I have a tendency to drink more when I come to Key West than any place else I ever live. It's like, especially when I was on the boatyard and working on boats and stuff like that, because I did do quite a bit of that. I actually did a restoration project on a big Hatteras yacht at one point. But, so yeah, I have a tendency to drink more when I'm down here. And this one day, and this is about the best I could recollect, is, I remember that day I was drinking Fireball with Travis, right? So I know I had been drinking that day. And I know I went into the bedroom, which is, again, CJ and Michelle's room. And I know, so this is during the time period where I'm watching it for them. So I remember that. And I don't remember much else about the day, except I do remember at one point, it's got to be later on in the evening, and I wake up and I'm out of cigarettes, right? And I wake up and I get, and Travis is actually there, right? So I go and I walk to Tom Thumb, to get cigarettes, and I go over there to get cigarettes, and I come back, and when we were up at Tom Thumb, right? I remember looking, and I'm like, I could look up, okay, there's the fire stations right there, and then you can see Laurel Avenue, where this happened, right? You can see Laurel Avenue from there. And I could see the cop lights up there, right? I could see a bunch of cop lights up there. And I remember saying to Travis, I was like, man, I wonder what happened up there, right? And it's like, and the thing is again, I'm not in dark clothing. I am in shorts. I am wearing sandals. I am wearing, normal people clothes, right? I guess I should say normal for Key West, right? But anyway, yes, and Mr. Mansfield alluded to this. I did have a nice big long goatee, and I had, Lord knows I have tattoos when I take off my suit. But the bottom line is I planned on living on boats, and yes, I was living that lifestyle. It's like, I planned on sailing off into the sunset, and just enjoying my life and kind of traveling, so I kind of look like a little savage. I'm not going to say I didn't, it's like, us boat people, we kind of had have a style, I guess. I don't know what it is. And, and yeah, it's kind of a freer way of living, I guess. Anyway, but beside the point. So getting back to that night, I remember looking up down Laurel Avenue and seeing the lights, right? By the time we got back, right, so it's not a very far walk from Tom Thumb to the warehouse. But by the time we got back there were cop cars everywhere. I mean, I'd never seen anything like that on Stock Island, right? I mean, literally, you had the FWC, Border Patrol, there's police everywhere, and they're going everywhere, right? And, there's police sirens everywhere. And I remember, we went back inside, and I think Travis did buy like a 12-pack of beer or something like that, right? And we go back inside, and I remember you could see, again, there's a bunch of these cop cars that went down into what they call it Little Haiti there, right? It's a bunch of trailers, and yes, it's before you get to the Hogfish, right? That road there. And I remember there's a bunch of cop cars that, man, you're going down into that neighborhood, right? And I'm like, damn, I wonder what those guys did. I'm like, I mean, whatever it is, they want them bad, so, and I think I said that to Travis, I'm not sure. Oh, and by the way, when we got back, that was the other thing, Big Scott was waiting for us when we got back. I remember that too. Because, okay, I know Travis, he testified that, he had the key to the door. Him and Maury Wilson were the only ones with the keys to the door, right? So, Big Scott was waiting outside for us, right? And because he couldn't get inside, right? He couldn't get in the door, right? So anyway, so we go upstairs, and, and when I saw all that stuff out the window, you gotta remember I'm still a little bit lit. I managed to walk my butt down to the thumb, but, I wasn't going much farther than that. So, anyway, so I go from there. Let's see, I go from there, and I remember Big Scott and Travis were going to go, and they were going to go hang out on the front porch downstairs and watch the cop cars go by, just see what was up. They're going to drink beer on the porch and watch the cop cars. I'm like, okay, I'm going back to bed, because I was like, I'm not, I'm still not good, right? So I went back in, and I passed out and in the bed, right? And was it CJ and Michelle's room, right? So I pass out in there. And from what I understand, again, I can't, I can't really, say, except for I've seen it on video now. I mean, I've seen it on video as far as some of this stuff. But while I was upstairs and I'm passed out in there, this is where, okay, to clarify, when I went to go get cigarettes at Tom Thumb, right, it has to be sometime after the Florida Keys Electric video that you see there, right? It has to be sometime after that. I don't know when, but, unfortunately, that's all we have for video. So I don't know. I just know that, it had to be sometime after that. Because, like I said, Travis is already there. So it's like, okay, I know it has to be there, right? So anyway, so I don't know exactly, what time. I couldn't tell you exactly what time. I do know that, yes, it would have been helpful if we had the video from Tom Thumb.
Judge, can I object? Can we come sidebar?
Oh, okay, yeah. So, okay. So we'll resume with the direct examination testimony.
So I'm going to, okay, back to where we are with the story. So again, I'm passed out in bed, and somewheres along the lines, again, the police show up at the house is because, okay, this was told to me by Travis and Big Scott.
Objection to hearsay.
Okay.
We'll sustain the objection.
Okay. Well, I get woke up along the line somewheres along the night, and I don't remember when, but I remember, man, I get woken up in the middle of the night, and because when they went downstairs to go and check this out, right? I remember telling them, I was like, I'm gonna go to sleep, man. I'm like, tell me what happened later, just tell me what happened, because I mean, it is kind of a big deal, So anyway, so I go pass out, and somewheres along the night, I wake up, man, and Rory Wilson is there, and Travis is there, and Big Scott's there. And, I mean, we're drinking, and smoking some weed, I mean, and, as far as crack, I don't remember, man, the crack thing. Not too much of it anyway. I mean, I vaguely remember some of it. But the thing is because I say that because I seem to remember somebody having crack and somebody smoking it, but man, I don't remember. I do, again, at this point, I'm resuming drinking and I am smoking weed at this time, right? So I'm not, again, I'm refogging my brain at this point. So anyway, so after that, let's see, because okay, like I said, again, I had a tendency around Fantasy Fest. It was usually a couple weeks worth of partying, man, during Fantasy Fest is usually what it was for me, But I don't remember much, man, as far as the next day. I don't really remember too much as far as that went. I do remember. Okay, this is one thing I do remember. Because again, it starts to, it's been many years, and I can't really tell you guys, man, exactly, because it has been years, and I'm trying to, my best to remember here. But I do remember there's a point that comes in there where we have two detectives that show up at the door, right? And they come to the front door, and I open the door for them. I literally open the door for them, and I know now who they are. I mean, I'm sure they introduced themselves at the time. I just don't remember them introducing themselves. But it was Detective Smith and Detective Fernandez, right? And now, don't get me wrong. I knew they were detectives because they're not wearing uniforms and they've got their badge on their belt, right? So the thing is okay. So I know they're detectives, right? And they start asking me questions about Rory Wilson, right? And I know Rory. I mean, I don't know. Again. It's not like we hang out all the time. It's not like I know him, I know him that well, right? But I know him, right? And but they're asking me questions like, okay, they're asking me, is he a drug dealer? They're asking me stuff like that, right? And I'm like, well, not that I know of. I know he has a job. I mean, I know he has a pregnant girlfriend. I know that. But they're asking me a bunch of different questions, right? And I actually even, I even gave him, Rory's phone number. I was like, if you want to contact him, here, I'll give you his number, right? And I remember Rory after that, man. It's like, sorry, weird, but he texts me right after they leave, and because I also told him that Rory's door is around the other side of the building, right? It's actually on the back side of the building. He has like a front door that's all his own, right? And I told him about that, and it's like, so anyway. Again, it's a little fuzzy here, but I do remember Rory texting me not long after they left, right? And he's like, cops.
Objection to hearsay.
I'll sustain the objection.
Okay. Well, anyway, so I do remember, telling Rory I go to him because they left me a card, right? And I go knock on his door and I give him the card, right? And I said, look, man, these aren't uniformed officers. These are detectives, man. I'm like. And they were asking me some questions about you, and you might want to give them a call. You know what I mean? So anyway, so that's what I tell them, and I give them the card, right? And after that, let's see. I'm trying to remember anything important after that, because, okay, after that, I don't remember too much. Oh, because it wasn't too long after that where they come in and they do this raid. But okay, prior to the raid, I remember this. It's Thanksgiving time, right? So it's around Thanksgiving, right? And I remember the Lunas had like a Thanksgiving dinner, like a free Thanksgiving dinner or something like that, right? And, I like the Lunas, and so I went over there for that. And I think this would be the 21st. I would have to say it's the 21st because actually, I know it's the 21st now. Okay, so it's the 21st, right? And, I go and, I was a little sketched out by, man, the detective showing up there, because look, the warehouse, like I said, Rory Wilson, and April had cops come there many times, right? And look, it's only a matter of time before you're going to get caught up in something, right? So I didn't want to stay there very long, and I actually told CJ and Michelle this, right? I'm like, I'm trying to be a friend here, but at the same time, I'm not trying to hang out here too long, right? And so anyway, so I remember, the raid at the warehouse. That's what I think. That's what Travis called it. I don't know what you actually call it, but that night, okay, I went to DeLuna's, went and did the whole dinner thing, and this is when I first heard about what had happened up at the Treehouse, right? I hear through a friend of mine, Janice. We were having dinner that night, at the DeLuna's thing, and she told me that.
Objection to hearsay.
Oh, okay. I was informed.
The objection in terms of the details.
I was informed that somebody got stabbed in the parking lot up at CVS. That's what I was informed of, right? And so that was my first, hearing of this. Anyway, but that same night is when this thing happens, as far as the whole raid thing. And I'm telling you, it's the stupidest thing I ever did, man, in this whole thing. Because, okay, they come in, and I'm upstairs, and I'm literally in CJ and Michelle's room, and I had a laptop, kind of like I do now, but I had a laptop, and I was watching TV on the laptop, right? And I was just getting ready, watching, another show. And when they came in, the way that place was laid out, they had because it was an old warehouse, right? So they had, the one I was in, you could literally see to downstairs, right? It had like a plexiglass window that went across one of the walls. I imagine it was like an old supervisor, like an old supervisor office or something. But you could look down and you could actually see right downstairs, right? And I hear a bunch of commotion down there. And I look down, from the plexiglass, the window, and I could see the cops banging on the door, right? They're actually, because, okay, it's two separate, Lori's got his in the back. There's this big storage room. And then there's like the stairs that go up to the other, I don't want to say apartments, but the other rooms where people were renting, right? And so they're banging on the door, right? And they've got a battering ram. And there's boom, boom. And then I see they've got ski masks on. They've got assault rifles. There's smoke. I mean, literally, I look down there and I'm just like, oh my God, right? And so anyway, do the dumbest thing that you could possibly ever do. I go out of CJ and Michelle's room, and I come walking down the stairs with my hands up, looking like an idiot, because I'm sitting there going, I'll open the door, just don't shoot. Like they can see me. It's like, so as soon as I open the door, the next thing you know, I've got an assault rifle in my nose, right? And they're leading me out. And, literally I'm like whipped around, handcuffs on, and taken out to a squad car, right? And it's like, and I remember, and one thing I didn't like is I remember as I was going by, seeing Rory Wilson's girlfriend on her stomach. Now, look, April and I didn't like each other, that's true. But she was 8 months pregnant, and seeing her on her belly on the ground did not make me happy. But they take me out to the squad car, and I have no idea what's going on. I'm literally sitting out, do you guys have a warrant? Am I being detained? Am I arrested? I mean, the whole thing. I have no idea why I'm being taken out to the squad car, or why even any of this is happening, right? I mean, but based on what the detectives told me that had showed up there a few days earlier, I guess, based on what they told me, I thought it was over drugs. I mean, I thought maybe, they were there for drugs or something, I didn't know. But I just know that, man, they came in, they're coming in like that. They've got a reason, if they're coming in like that. And, so I'm way confused at this point. I have no idea what's going on. And I'm sitting in the back of the squad car, and they left me out there for a while, and I'm still, I have no idea. And eventually somebody got in the driver's seat. I don't remember who it was, but somebody gets in the driver's seat, and I'm literally I'm asking them a bunch of questions. I'm like, trying to figure out what the hell's going on. And so, eventually they tell me they want to take me down to the station. And I'm like, well, look, I don't have a shirt on. I don't have shoes on. I don't even know what this is over. I'm like, am I being arrested? Any of that stuff, right? And no, it ends up, it actually is Detective Pitcher. He goes and he gets me a shirt. It's like a camouflage shirt, but he gets it from David Gross's room, right? And he brings it down, so I at least have a shirt on, right? And so they take me down to the station, right? And when they take me down the station, I'm trying, because again, this is, it's pretty traumatic. I'm not going to say it's not. It's pretty traumatic when that kind of stuff happens. But anyway, not that I've been through it, I've been through it a bunch of times, but I mean, like I said, I'm lucky I didn't get shot going down the stairs. Anyway, so bottom line is they take me into the station. And when they take me in the station, let's see, I don't remember who it was that brought me in. I know they bring me in and they put me in an interrogation room, right? And when they first start talking to me, I'm like, again, I'm wondering why I'm here.
I'm objecting to his testifying to his statements made back then.
I just said I was wondering why. I'm telling you my thought,
I understand, but in terms of the statements that you made at that time, I would sustain the objection.
Are you talking about what I would tell the police?
Yes, sir.
Oh, okay. I'll leave that out then. I'm sorry, I didn't understand. I'll leave that part of the story out. Anyway, so I go into the interrogation room, and at first, they're questioning me, and I'm thinking at the time, okay, remember I said I thought it was over drugs, right? So, and they're asking me these questions, and first that's what I thought they were, again, they're asking me because they want to know information, right? So, but then it comes around to the murder, somewhere's in there, right? And they start asking me questions about it. And again, I'm thinking, okay, they asked me what I knew about it, that kind of stuff. I'm sorry, I don't want to testify to what they asked me. But, but at the time I remember thinking, they just wanted information from me, right? They just want to know what I know, what I've heard, that kind of thing. But somewhere's along the lines in there, and it became very clear they thought I had something to do with this, right? And I remember. Oh, wait a second, because I'm forgetting about a part here. They take me out of the interrogation room at some point, and they take me down. They put me in a squad car, right? And I'm still in handcuffs, right? So I'm still in handcuffs, but they put me in the squad car, and they leave me down in the squad car for, I don't know how long. It had to be like an hour. I have no idea, but I was in the squad car. And then they bring me back up, and they ask me a bunch more questions, right? And like I said, now it's I'm getting this feeling. I'm like, okay, wait a second. They're not asking me because they think because they just want information. They think I had something to do with this thing, right? And at the time I remember, that they went to that direction. And again, I'm very adamant. I get very adamant once I realize this. I'm like, oh no, but yeah. So I don't know if I can testify to what I said, but I remember, saying it to them. I was like,
Objection to what he said.
Yeah.
I mean, okay, then I won't say what I said then. But I will say this: I was very adamant about not having anything to do with it. So eventually, it gets down to the point where I've been interrogated all night over this thing, and it got to a point. I mean, I was like, look, I'm like, are you going to arrest me? Are you actually going to arrest me, or am I free to go? Can I get, look, I'm tired of being here. I'm tired of saying the same, giving these answers. Can I go home, or are you going to arrest me for this thing? And they let me go, right? And not only did they let me go, the bad part about that is they made me walk home. And I remember the directive was to check out the cameras, how many cameras there were, right? And and they did give me, I'll give them this, they gave me slides, because remember I told you I didn't have any shoes. They gave me slides, right? Was it the stuff they use in jail, the slides, right? Kind of like flip-flops. Anyway, so they give me those and send me on my way. So now I got to walk all the way home, which, okay, it's a little distance, And so I walked there, and I probably got there, I don't know, I probably got there like 5 or 6 o'clock in the morning. It was early in the morning, and I've been there all night, right? And when I get there, the door is locked, and as we've said, I didn't have a key, right? So, but my stuff is still in there. Now I'm freaked out. I gotta tell you, I'm freaked out, because okay, when they, again, that I've never had that happen, right? So I'm freaked out about the thing. And when, I get there, the door's locked, and I remember I had to throw rocks up at the windows to finally get Travis to come down and open the door, right? So he comes down, he opens up the door, and I tell him what happened. I was like, I just tell him what happened to me. I was like, I can't believe it, I can't believe they took me down there, blah, 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 this, that, and that, right? So, anyway, but I don't want to stay there. I don't want to stay there. I'm like, okay, this is way more than this is way more than I want, right? So, I get my stuff together, and I literally grab all my stuff, and I tell CJ Michelle. I called up CJ Michelle, and I was like, look, look, it's all good, you guys, man, but I can't stay here. You know what I'm saying? I can't stay here anymore. And I remember them asking me if I would at least grab, like, they had family photos and pictures of kids and stuff like that. And they asked me if I would grab that and take it down to Burger King and drop it off there, right? And I was like, yes, I can at least do that for you, you know? So I grabbed a bunch of the pictures, man, from their room, and I tried to grab, you know, anything, you know, that could be of value or sentimental value to them, right? Because now I'm leaving and I'm not, you know, I'm not staying there. And so, yeah, I grab all that. I put it into a bag for them, and I grab my stuff, and I head on out, and I go ahead. And this is, I don't know, it's I don't remember what time of day it is. I know it's morning, you know. I mean, like I said, I got there probably like 5, 6 o'clock, so I don't remember how long it took them to open the door or anything like that. But I did grab, you know, some stuff, dropped it off at Burger King, and I do remember I called 2 people that day. I called my friend Cliff, and I called my one of my brothers, Jeff. You know, he's not blood related brother, but he is my brother in every sense. But yes, so I go ahead and I call them because I'm freaked out, right? Because I knew when they let me go, I knew that, okay, they let me go, but I got the distinct impression that, man, you know, no, they thought I had something to do with this, and they were, you know, this was not going to be the last time that, you know, they talked to me about this. And, you know, I was scared. I'm going to tell you, I mean, straight up, I was scared. You know, I didn't know what was going on, and I was like, and you know, I can't explain to anybody, you know, the feeling, but I was scared. So that's why I called them up, because I was looking. I was like, look, man, everything in, I mean, everything.
Objection to what he was telling these people?
Well, I'm talking about my kid.
All right.
But anyway, in my mind at that point, yeah, I mean, everything was telling me, man, it's like, you need to get out of here, right? I mean, these people, man, you know, they think you had something to do with this, and but then, you know, the other side of me is going, if I take off, they're going to think I did it, you know. So I mean, I have this little war going on in my head, and anyway, so I went from Burger King and I started walking down towards Key West, right? You know, because there's that little bridge and, you know, park and stuff there. And I remember as I came across the bridge, there was a couple guys there, and they're drinking off of, they're drinking off a liter of Skull or whatever, you know, it's the rot gut vodka. And at that point, I was like, yeah, I need one. And I was like, you know, you know, so I sat there with them, took a couple hits off that, and I eventually end up down at McDonald's, right? And when I get down to McDonald's, and then I'm still sketched out. I'm sketched out about the whole thing. And I don't know what to do, to be honest. I just don't know what to do. It's like, man, it's like I've never found myself in this position before. I don't know what to do. So anyway, so I get on, you know, because I went to McDonald's because they had free Wi-Fi there, right? So I could get on my laptop, because I always had a laptop in my backpack, right? So, you know, I get on my laptop, and I'm not even sure what I'm doing, to be honest. I really wasn't sure on what I was doing at that point. I didn't know. So anyway, but that's when Paula shows up. And Paula and I, you know, we weren't friends, right? But we knew each other. It's like, it's one of those things, you know, small island, and, you know, and we know who lives in the neighborhood. We know who lives on the island. You know, it's like you run into each other. Hey, you know, how you doing? How's it going? You know, that kind of thing. But I don't know that much about her. You know what I mean? You know, so anyway, so I run into Paula, and I remember, because I was feeling so bad and so sorry for myself for, man, being interrogated, you know, for overnight, you know, being interrogated for this thing all night, and I'm scared, and I'm feeling sorry for myself, I guess, right? And I remember seeing Paula, and she had a bandage on her neck from the night, right? And I remember seeing her, and I was just like, and all of a sudden I felt like such a, I'm not trying to curse, I guess, but I felt really bad, right? Because I was like, here I am feeling sorry for myself, and then I see her, right? And she's bruised up, and she has the thing on her neck, and it's like, and when, you know, and I told her what happened to me. I told her that they took me down to the station. I told her, you know, what happened, and the thing is Paula, you know, yes, she did cry, and yes, she did, you know, cry on my shoulder, and, you know, and I told you I felt horrible, because it was just like, it's like, again, here I am feeling bad because they grilled me all night, and then I saw and heard from her experience, right? And no, I just felt bad about it. It's like, okay, you know, here I am again, I guess it's the somebody always has something worse thing, you know, there's always.
Objection to the self-serving statements, Judge.
All right, I'll overrule the objection. You
Thank
can
you, Your Honor.
continue.
Anyway, so it was definitely, again, while I was still not certain about what was going to happen here, you know, but it definitely put me in a different mindset to see her, right? And but anyway, so after I saw her, I remember I went back to COTS, because now I'm going to COTS, and I'm, you know, not going back to the warehouse. I don't want nothing to do with it, right? So I go back to COTS, and, you know, they had again, another little Thanksgiving dinner thing there, and, you know, I had some of that, you know, whatever. And then I went into where the bunk is, and this is when I get arrested, right? And when I got arrested, you know, because, you know, Detective Pitcher was the, you know, one of the ones who talked to me when they were doing their interviews. And I remember him leading the charge, but there was a good amount of officers, and they were coming in from both sides. And I remember looking up at him, and I was like, I guess we're not talking now, are we? And he's like, no. And so anyway, so they arrest me, and they take me over to the jail, right? And I'm the whole time I'm kind of flipping, and I'm like, literally, like, I'm like telling them I didn't have anything to do with this, and you know, and so I'm telling them this stuff, and somewhere along the lines I get told that it's about witness tampering, right? And I'm like, and I thought it was over Paula. I thought it was because I talked to her at McDonald's. And I was like, nobody told me I couldn't talk to her, right? But that's not what it ends up being about, and I won't testify as to what it was, because I think that would, Mr. Mansfield probably object to it, but at the same time, so you know, so I'm thinking, you know, again, my head is spinning again, and okay, so now I'm in jail, and they take me, and they literally, okay, the jail has the elevator, goes up, they take me in. I remember getting booked, you know, kind of booked in, whatever the hell, you know, whatever that is, where they check in, whatever, right? But they do that, and this is, you know, I'm not going to say I haven't been to jail before. I've been to Key West jail one other time, and it was for misdemeanors, right? Boat charges, you know, it was nothing. I mean, I can't say it was nothing, but, you know, it was misdemeanors. But anyway, so thing is they take me right to the back, right? And they put down all these brown paper bags, and there's a bunch of guards around me, and they literally make me drop all my clothes right down the bag, and they put me in the black and white stripes, and then they put me in chains, head to toe. I mean, chains, you know, like chains. And they take me right to solitary, right? Now, again, I've been to jail before, right? Never for anything close to this. And the thing is, and I've never had an experience like it, you know, ever. But they take me there, they put me in solitary, and my mind is spinning. I can't even explain to you guys what it's like. You know, it's like, I just didn't know. Look, I was a normal guy a second ago, and now I'm sitting in a jail cell, and I'm, you know, being put in chains, and man, everybody's, you know, people are telling me I'm a murderer, you know, and so I'm in there, and I'm in the solitary, and solitary is weird. It's 23.
Objection to the relevance of solitary.
Well, I'm just telling the story. I mean,
No,
look,
I
you can tell me where to stop if you want.
Well, sustain that objection.
Yeah, I mean, okay. And I'm not exactly sure what is relevant of anything. I'm just telling the story.
I understand, Mr. Tucker, but...
Anyway, so yeah, I go to jail, and, you know, over the course of time, I mean, you know, it's, you know, I guess it's not really relevant as far as now. I meet my wife. I shouldn't say meet my wife. I've known her since we were kids, but she was the first person to contact me. You know, she was the first person to contact me when I got there, and I think it was like day 7. And I was surprised. I was really surprised because we hadn't seen each other in 33 years, you know, and I can't even tell you. But anyway, the thing is so yeah, you know, she comes, and by this point, you know, I still didn't have a lawyer. I was still in solitary. I still don't know why I'm there. You know, I have no idea why I'm there, really. I mean, I know what they're saying. I don't know.
Objection, Judge, to this.
I just.
Okay.
We're rambling here. It's
Well,
not
I don't, rambling, but I'm not sure how much what we're hearing here is not relevant, so
Would you like me to?
Well, if we'd like a little direction, we can excuse the jurors, or,
Yeah, I'll take direction. I'll take direction. I mean,
well,
it's like, I just don't know what.
I understand.
Where you want me to
I'm
go?
just suggesting that it would be prudent, in my view, for just a moment or two to excuse the jurors, and we'll get back to you shortly. Okay, have a seat. So, I just wanted to excuse the jurors. I mean, not finding fault, Mr. Tucker has, certainly comported himself well on the witness stand. It's just that when you start to get into the circumstances of incarceration, of reuniting with ultimately his wife and the like, you objected. That's objectionable.
Yes, Judge, it is objectionable. He's courting sympathy from the jury,
Well,
trying to tell them how horrible solitary is. I mean, it's not relevant to me.
I understand. I agree with you. I'm not sure if he's intentionally trying to do that. I didn't get that impression. I got the impression he was telling his story. And I didn't attribute any ill motive. I understand the potential effect that it could have. That's why I sustained your objection, and it's why I excused the jurors to try to give some direction so we don't have to keep going back and forth.
Very well.
So,
I mean,
Your
I
Honor.
understand he's being allowed to testify in the narrative, but, getting into how devastating this was for him and all the thought process, I mean, what's the purpose of that, other than the court?
well,
Your Honor, I mean,
go
if I
ahead.
may.
Go ahead.
Look, you got to understand, this was an extremely emotional
Yeah.
experience, and it's like when I'm trying to remember this, it is hard for me. This was not something pleasant. It wasn't something cool.
Of course not.
And it's hard for me to bring it up and not bring, not have emotions about it.
I
I'm sorry.
understand that. I mean, I
sorry.
think for most, the vast majority of human beings, it would be extremely traumatic, devastating, life-altering, whatever strong words you want to use to experience that. And I get it. And I think I've given quite a bit of leeway in terms of you, quote-unquote, telling your story. But at this particular point, I'm not sure how much else is relevant.
Yeah,
That's-
I would ask the same thing. What else would you like me to go into? I mean, how far back do you want me to go? I mean, I did miss the one in there. There is the one where I go to Metro PCS. I haven't talked about that because that is one of the things that got me arrested.
well,
So I don't know. I don't know what you want to know.
I can't tell you what I would like you to go into or wouldn't like you to go into. The only thing I can say is that I feel I've granted quite a bit of leeway, but in terms of the building up to the event, if you will, the aftermath, your experience with law enforcement,
Yeah.
your experience being arrested, but how much, I don't think there's much room for any more of that unless there's
There's a couple
something that you're going to say was seized from you, or you're going to try to explain away some statement that you made.
No, Your Honor, but there are a couple of important things that I actually forgot to tell the jury at this point. Not anything. I don't think it's going to take very long. There's just a couple of things as I'm going through this. I mean, I forgot to tell them about Metro PCS because to me it really didn't mean anything at the time,
Okay.
but it does later.
Okay,
So
well, that's factual in nature, and I'm not saying
But I mean,
solitary isn't factual, but that's really not relevant to the proof or the defense. That's just the, what should we say, the fallout of being arrested. It doesn't go to the elements of the crime or a defense.
No,
right?
no, it doesn't, Your Honor. It's just thinking about it. It's just it was like, okay, I didn't know where to end there, and I can end that. I can end that right there. That's
I
fine.
understand that, and you did kind of indicate amenability to seeking some sort of direction, and that's why I excuse the jurors to try to do so.
Thank you.
So I think we've
Yeah, I think we've gone.
given
I
as
mean,
much
that far.
of that as we
Yeah.
can in terms of direction, and so
I'd say there's a couple more pieces, and that's
Okay.
it. Just
All
to
right.
make sure that, again, they get the full picture here.
I understand that. But, so, let's bring them in, please.
All jurors present in court with the honor.
Thank you. Please be seated, everyone. Welcome back, members of the jury. The defendant remains on the witness stand and is going to continue his direct testimony. So you can proceed.
Okay, and I was just look, I think we agreed that stopping where the story where that part is probably a good idea. But there were a couple of things I forgot in there that happened along the way. I go at one point, and this is before I get arrested. I go to Metro PCS, and I'm going to pay my phone bill. Right, that's all I'm going. I'm going over there, and I'm going to go over to Burger King and get something to eat. And I remember Roy Wilson. He's outside of he's outside the warehouse, and I just happened to be going out, and he asked if he could walk with me. Right, I'm like, okay. Again, at this point I don't know anything, so it's like I'm like, okay. So we walk over there, and this becomes something later, but I didn't think of anything of it at the time, but we go over there and I pay my phone bill, and but this is before the raid, and that it becomes something later. But the thing is that I just figured that had to be in there just because, again, it does become part of the story. So does the whole Fantasy Fest thing. That becomes part of the story too. Because I guess I can't testify to what those pieces are. I guess I'll save that for my close. But I felt it necessary to tell you about that trip. And then I just want to make sure that we've got everything here. Because I don't think there's anything else I can remember from the time period that's actually relevant to the situation. I can tell you this, because somebody else asked me this not too long ago, and they asked me if I had ever been to the Treehouse before, right? And yes, I've been to the Treehouse 3 times in my life, right? I was there once because when I first got back to Key West, right, I had gotten back and I was coming from Arizona, right? And I get back to Key West, and yeah, rents here are high. Everybody knows that, right? And I saw an ad in the paper, I want to say. I'm pretty sure that's how it happened. But it was Matt, and it's the only time I've ever met the victim, right? It's the only time. And he was renting out the flats on the Treehouse, right, for $350 a month, if I remember correctly. And, and the thing is I go there to check it out because, like I said, I'm pretty sure it was an ad in the paper or something like that, right? But I go there and, because I'm looking for a place to stay. I just got back, right? So I'm looking for a place to stay. And when I got there, I was like, okay, it's these flats on the Treehouse, and it's built up. It's like a deck on a deck on a deck, I guess. And, I'm looking at that. And then, for the bathroom facilities, it was like a trailer in the back, and it was like a caved-in roof, if I remember correctly, and there's a toilet in there, nothing else. Right, and I'm like, for $350 a month, I ain't doing it. Right, I'm just not doing it. Right, but not. That's not to say that Matt wasn't Matt was actually a nice guy. You know, I mean, that's the only time I've ever met him, and he was a nice guy. He was, you know, that's about all. I mean, like I said, I didn't get to know him or anything like that. But, you know, he showed me around, showed me what he had, and I just said no. That's all it was. And the other 2 times I was there was at Todd O'Quinn. I knew Todd O'Quinn. And Todd O'Quinn, you know, we went to the bar a couple times. You know, went down to the Hogfish, and I had a little bit too much to drink or whatever, and, you know, I couldn't get all the way back to, you know, either Cots or, you know, I stayed at a couple different places, but yeah. And I couldn't make it all the way back, because again, remember, this is after the storm. You know, I'm still trying to rebuild, you know. And so anyway, I remember staying there two nights. Like, there's 2 different times, but different times, not 2 nights in a row, but 2 different time periods. And just because I couldn't make it back. And I remember one night, I don't know if Paula remembers, but I remember one night she woke me up yelling at me. But yeah, and it's like, you know, but the thing is so yeah, those are the only 3 times that I've been to the Treehouse. And let's see, and then what was the other one? There was something else somebody asked me not too long ago, and I think it's kind of relevant. Trying to remember. It's like, because yeah, that takes care of that. But I'm trying to remember here. Oh no, somebody asked me if I knew Matt, and like I said, I've already answered that question. It was, I met him once.